Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Katz, and welcome to WeAreSC.com's Inside the Trojans Huddle, where we tell it like it is. Friends, Inside the Trojans Huddle is a game-like panel discussion with WeAreSC panelists, staff writers, historians, and editorial board. We first start with the pregame show, where we introduce our panel members for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and then give you the latest USC football news. First, let's meet this week's panelists. Marc Kulkin, WeAreSC columnist, who writes the Monday Morass, Yay or Nay, and Sunday Takeaways, in addition to regular season football and basketball practice reports. Chris Arledge, former William Jewell College defensive back and team captain, and WeAreSC columnist who writes the popular column Musings with Arledge and is a graduate of the USC Law School. Kevin Bruce, former USC first team all-conference linebacker, team member on the 1972 and starter on the 1974 USC National Champions, and Trojans captain for the 1975 Trojans, as well as WeAreSC columnist who writes the column Defensively and Offensively Speaking after every USC game. Greg Katz, that's me, your moderator and producer of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and a weekly WeAreSC columnist who writes Fridays, the obvious and the not so obvious, IMHO Sunday, and an active member of the Football Writers Association of America. And we are at SC. Would like to hope all of you had a wonderful Labor Day weekend. And so let's get right to it. Before we kick off this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, here's the latest USC football news as of Monday afternoon's taping. The USC Trojans opened their 2022 season on Saturday afternoon by demolishing Rice University 66-14 in a scorching Coliseum. 60,133 sun-scorched fans were treated to a sterling debut of USC quarterback Caleb Williams, who led the Trojans on offense, passing for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the defense, which accounted for 3 pick-six TDs. This Saturday, the Trojans traveled to Palo Alto to open Pac-12 play with the undefeated Stanford Cardinal, who on Saturday destroyed Colgate University 41-10 in Stanford Stadium. The Trojans have been established a 10.5 favorite to defeat Stanford. Kickoff time is 4:30 p.m. Pacific time and will be televised on ABC. And on a social note, WeAreSC wishes a very happy birthday to USC football Trojans head coach Lincoln Riley, who turned 39 on Monday. And finally, friends, WeAreSC's Inside the Trojans Huddle greatly appreciates your viewer and listenership. And we encourage those of you watching on sites like YouTube to click on the red subscriber and like buttons. It's greatly valued and is free. And we encourage you to check out WeAreSC.com and become a valued premium member of the best USC football and athletic news source around. All right, let's get this thing started. The first quarter panel. Let's first begin with your overall thoughts on the Trojans' 66-14 victory over Rice. Then we'll get into specifics with an attached A through F grading scale. Let's begin with an overall letter grade for the offense and a brief comment. So Marc Kulkin, as usual, please lead us off. Give us your overall grade of the offense.
That's an easy one. This is an A. I mean, they were almost, perfect? You had to wait until late in the second half to get a punt attempt. But Caleb Williams showed why he is going to be a very special player. He was almost flawless back there. The stats up top of my head were he missed 3 passes, 19 out of 22, something like that, whatever the numbers were. He led the team in rushing with 68 yards. USC put up that over 500 yards that we were looking for. It's hard to nitpick anything bad that happened on offense. It really is. Maybe the running game could have been a little bit more impactful. Other than that, they were great.
All right, Chris Arledge, what were they great? Your overall assessment grade?
Yeah, I mean, they were spectacular. You're talking, they ran 58 plays, 21 of them were for 10+ yards. They lost yards twice. USC leads the nation in yards per play at 9.3. And you say, well, it's just Rice. Yeah, but it's week 1. Everybody was playing cupcakes in week 1, but only USC averaged 9.3 yards per play. The offense is exactly what I thought it would be. Caleb Williams is spectacular. The offensive line is solid, and there's speed all over the field, which is the thing that really jumped out at me early in the game. Last year, I remember, and we talked about it, USC just looked slow offensively. There was Drake London was great, and he made plays. But apart from Drake London, it was hard to figure out who defenses were supposed to be worried about. Now you look out there, and it looks like everybody in the field they have to be worried about. Rice isn't good, but USC is going to tear up a lot of defenses this year. That group can really play. And so that was a good start. That's exactly what I hoped we would see.
Kevin Bruce, El Capitan, were you pleased with the offense and your grade?
Yeah, I think the offense, you got to handicap, at least I do. I have to handicap a little bit. It was Rice, though it was, the cupcake week, though not everybody scheduled cupcakes, and the ones that didn't in the Pac-12 probably should have. Given that some of those results, oh my gosh, rather enjoyed it, frankly. The game was, the offense was a B+, and Caleb Williams is an A+. So, average it out, the team gets an A. The guy's incredible. If I was playing defense, he would just cause no amount of lost sleep trying to figure out how to stop him. He is efficient. He is accurate. He sees the field the way that other guys don't see the field at this stage of their career. He's dangerous with his feet. He's dangerous with his arm, and he's a leader. I don't know, man. That says it all right there. I hope he hangs around, a long period of time. Probably not the case. So enjoy it while he's here.
Absolutely. I will give it an A- for all of what you guys have already said. I thought the offense was, it was almost unbelievable to see that offense, a real offense compared to what we've been watching, the schlock from the last 3 years. It was just flat out refreshing. Okay, so let's move on to be a little more specific here. We'll attach a letter grade for each offensive unit and a brief comment. Mark, when you do this, just go right through the list that I kind of gave you guys and anything you want to add, and then we'll move on to the next guy. So go ahead and start off with quarterback and what your grade is and any comment you want, and then move right down the list there.
Got it. Yeah, I think I've already gave the grade for a quarterback. That's definitely so dynamic. And it was such a vanilla play calling. And the play calling looked good.
Yes.
Almost forgot what that looked like. Running backs, you know what? I'm going to give them a B, only because they didn't get to show a whole lot. We didn't get to see a Heisman pose. Every running back that touched the ball produced in some way, shape, or form. Travis Dye, he might not have gotten in the end zone, but he did have probably the best block of the game. So, yeah, solid B. I just want to see more from those guys. Wide receiver, I don't know, B. They weren't spectacular, but they didn't have to be. I mean, they got open, they caught the ball, and they were wide open. They didn't really have to work that hard, but everybody got to play, which was a good thing. Tight end, I got to go with the incomplete. Were they targeted? If they did, one time maybe off the top of my head. Offensive line, straight. I'm going to give them a straight A across the board. I saw some of the, and I'm not a big fan of Pro Football Focus, but I saw their grading based on the count snaps for each player. They were really, really good. The one time that Caleb got sacked, you can almost put that on him. And it was what, a loss of 1 yard, 2 yards. It was barely a negative play. So overall, yeah, Kevin, we get it. It was Rice. They're not very good. But USC overall in offense, down the line, they acquitted themselves very, very well.
Okay, Chris, grading scale, and you are a teacher, so I'm looking forward to this.
But look, it's not clear yet whether or not USC has tight ends that are going to be productive this year. We haven't had tight ends in a long time that were productive. I think largely because of coaching. This year we may not, because there's so many other guys on the field to get the ball to. It was it was an offensive performance that was overwhelming. And so I'm going to give everybody an A, because I don't see the point of criticizing that side of the ball after getting 9.3 yards per play and scoring pretty much every time they got the ball. I will say this: the running backs were good, but I think by the end of the season, the running backs are going to be a lot better, and I think the little guy is going to get more and more touches as the season goes on, because he is really dangerous. And I, if you have Ray Leak getting the ball, and then you have Mario Williams and Jordan Addison and even Taj Washington, who look very quick out there. That's just a lot of guys who can score from anywhere on the field. It's going to be a huge problem. So they were getting him the ball early in this game, and he got on the first drive. But this is a guy who wasn't at spring ball, and it's the first game of the season. He's only been there a few weeks. That guy, by the end of the season, probably is going to be getting as many touches as any of the other backs, including Dye. That's my guess. I just think he's special. So I'm not gonna criticize anything those guys did. They scored just about every time they got the ball. They did whatever they wanted to do. Good performance.
All right, so basically straight A's from Chris Arledge.
Yeah.
All right, Kev, what say you on the grading scale here? Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight end, offensive line, etc.
Yeah, well, look, it's we're grading on a scale. So what we saw, that's an A performance against a B team. All right, so fine, we'll take it. We'll take it every day of the week and be happy about it. Guys played well. We have a lot of athleticism on this team, offense and defense. Matter of fact, I would submit the defense is, I have a kind of a predilection for that, is got as much talent as the offense does, with the exception of Caleb, which there's nobody on the team other than him, like him. So anyway, that said, hey, look, offense played well. Offensive line did enough. They're okay. They made good calls. No big blows that I saw. Everybody did their job. That's a good thing. Nobody tried to outdo themselves or do more than the play called for, and there were no drops. There was good heads up play out there. Honestly, it was. Frankly, I'm real glad we had Rice on the opener. I have to tell you, it's not like beware the owl. It's like, now we need someone to go, warm up against with a real scrimmage, and that was it. Because this week is a different story.
All right, well, I'm going to go very quickly. I gave the quarterback position an A. Williams and Moss, that were outstanding. Running backs, A-. I like the backs being able to pick up blitzes, and I think really Brown's performance speaks for itself. Wide receivers, I kind of gave him an A-. What can you say that hasn't already been said? Although I think that Hudson also kind of was a hidden gem there in some of his catches. Mario Williams, I think, will be a bigger factor going on. Jordan Addison probably lived up to his billing. No deep passes, but hey, listen, it doesn't make any difference. That'll come. Tight ends, look, they had one catch. The blocking looked pretty good. Grade I'll give as a C, not as a negative, but as this, rather than give them an incomplete, I'll just go with a C. Offensive line, I gave them a B+. I was disappointed there was 2 holding penalties on Voorhees, the preseason All-American. I thought the pass pro was pretty good. They gave up 1 sack. As far as running the ball, I think the average was 7.4 yards per carry. I don't think it's how many times they rushed the ball. It's what they did when they did rush the ball. I think a lot of the offense was safe for Stanford. No fly sweeps, all vanilla. But let's now turn to Alex Grench's defense. Let's begin with an overall letter grade for the defense and a brief comment. I feel good here. We got 2 defensive experts in Kevin and Chris. I'll be anxious to see what your take was on the defensive end. So Mark, we'll continue the same rotation here. What did you think about the defense, your grade and overall assessment?
Man, when you look at the final results, it's hard not to say just give them an A. and I'm gonna go A- overall defense, only because of those first two drives. It was just too reminiscent of what we had been accustomed to. So the fact that they've made the adjustments, great. Again, across the board defensively, I thought they were fantastic. You're not going to get a +4 very often, let alone 3 interceptions returned for a touchdown. I mean, they scored 30% of the team's touchdowns. They had 9. The defense had 3 of them. That's great. Again, I'm not going to nitpick other than those first 2 drives. But they found their footing, made the adjustments, and Rice wasn't heard from again after those 14 points.
All right, Chris, you're an all-conference defensive back. How did you see the overall defensive performance?
Well, it depends how you want to grade it. I mean, on one hand, how can you give the defense anything but an A when they outscored the other team's offense 21-14? I mean, that's if your defense outscores the other team's offense, I think you're going to win just about every game. That being said, there are some issues on the defense that could come back to bite us against better teams. Just about everybody from here on out is going to be a better team. The picks were great. The pick sixes were fantastic, but you're talking about tip balls that are falling into people's hands. You can't rely on that, and I don't know how much USC caused those plays to happen. Quarterback throws the ball a little bit behind a receiver. There wasn't really a guy in his face. The receiver tips it up in the air, and the safety takes it 93 yards for a touchdown. It's a great athletic play by Bullock, who's a fantastic athlete, but I don't know that USC caused that. So look, I expected the defensive front to be more disruptive against Rice. That's what Grinch wants to do, and I don't think they were. I think that our edge rushers, Height and Foreman, were pretty easily blocked and frankly played much too high. If you look at some of the, the easy touchdown run, if you look at the 55-yard run, what you see is that I think it was Height in one and Foreman in the other are playing very high and getting driven.
Yep.
That's not good. And so I do think we're going to have to see more from the defensive front. And if we don't, then a lot of these teams are going to be able to move the ball. I'm not convinced Stanford's going to. We'll talk about that in a bit. But look, it was a good start. And when you go from being 4-8 and maybe the worst defense in the history of the university to outscoring the other team's offense and having some big plays and shutting them down in the second half, you're going to feel pretty good about yourself. And I know that the coaching staff sees a lot of improvement to be made, and they're right. But at the same time, guys, after what we saw last year, isn't it nice to see guys go out and make some plays and win by 1,000 points? I mean, really, I don't want to criticize them too much. They outscored the other team's offense. We won big, and it looked like a completely different football program. So I'll save my negativity for later.
All right, Kev, you certainly have been a part of great defenses, analyzed defenses. What did you come to the conclusion on this one? Opening game against Rice.
Yeah, the defense learned a lot. And that was one of the outcomes you want from game one is limited to 0 injuries to the extent possible. 1, 2, you want your guys to learn some things. Grinch, defensive coordinator, ran a very vanilla 3-4 against a team that has no business being on the same field as we are. And I say that with as much respect. They showed up and they're going to take a paycheck home and it's all good, The defense is going to have to get better, but the defense is going to get better. They're going to learn. This week is, I know we're going to talk about Stanford later. This week is going to be a major league challenge to this defense for all kinds of reasons, not the most obvious reasons, by the way, but for good reasons. However, what Grinch did with the defense was showed improvement and some adjustments late in the first half and then into the second half. And then he called the dogs off and kept guys from getting hurt. That's smart. That's smart coaching. So I'm good on that. Look, the defensive line, it's not deep, so don't wear them out. And there you go.
Okay, well, I am going to give the defense a B. I thought there was some things that you've all previously said. I take into account, of course, that Rice lost their starting quarterback. It happens. They lost I think their starting running back. That can happen. That's a pretty big blow.
Yeah.
I don't think the game was ever in doubt, but I would have liked to have seen what two starters would have done to continue to, I don't want to say expose, but to validate where SC was strong. I think that, you get 3 pick sixes, and I think Chris made an excellent point. Tip balls, you have to say, were they catchable balls, the tip balls? I think conversely, you had players in their right spots to be close to a tip ball to intercept it and then do the damage. So my feeling is I have to be honest with you, I closed my eyes on a lot of it in terms of what I was seeing and said, what would Stanford be doing? If that was Stanford, what would I see?
Yeah.
I'm very concerned about the defensive line. I'm sorry. I just saw Foreman getting caught inside and easy to block. Same with some of the other rushers. Not enough pressure. And yes, I agree after the first couple of Rice tries, but then I say to myself, you know what? This is going to be a big step in class when we get to Palo Alto. But that being said, let's do just a quick grade evaluation.
They did create 4 sacks. They did do that. And they did have 8 TFLs. So
correct. You're absolutely correct. And I'm going to mention
but there's no doubt about it, that defensive line was probably the weakest link on the defense. Yes.
And by the way, let's not forget, guys understood what their assignments were. People lined up properly. We had 11 guys on the field pretty consistently.
Yes.
This was, I mean, if you just watch the team go out there and line up and do what they're supposed to do and get the play called in time, not have to burn timeouts because you don't have guys on the field or because guys are lined up wrong. It looked like a team that was playing its 8th or 9th game. Unless it's a Clay Helton team, then at no point during the season would it look like that. So, I mean, that's nice, right? That's a really nice thing. These are guys who are being coached and are learning. And that's it. And in first games, it's not unusual to have strange mental errors anyway. Right. There wasn't a lot of that. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, we did see some loss of gap control, a gap right off the center's butt, both sides, which is okay. There are other people on the other side of the ball trying to do things to you. So, it can happen. That got corrected and there was an adjustment made. We had to, I'll get too awfully technical here, but we had to run our Mike backer into an over situation where he's going to work the strong side. Right, because we didn't have the A gap covered fully with the tackle can't 2 gap against Rice, so that means they're definitely not going to 2 gap against Stanford. Right, we don't have the horses. Peely played pretty well, but he's big man. Whatever. The Foreman just continues to disappoint.
Well, Kevin, on that,
I just got. Well, hang on. I just got to say that because you can block him with a tight end, you can block him with a running back. I mean, he's just, and he runs himself out of the play. I don't know what you're going to do because we need him to perform at the level that he really should. He's got athletic skills, so he's got that. Check that box big time. But he's a very blockable individual, and I'm a little concerned. Look like Romello Height, who is a good football player. Looks like he got nicked up, so I don't know if he's going to be 100% or not.
Well, real quick on Corey, he right now he's got one move, and that's just to try and.
I know. I know he's got one move. I could block him right now.
Right. Romello got ejected.
That's sad.
Romello health wise is fine. He got you know, he got ejected from the game.
Well, he also, yes, I recall.
But I
Thank
wanted
you
to
for-
ask you,
for the reminder.
I wanted to ask you specifically about Solomon Tuliaupupu. What did you see out of him?
I saw quickness,
Can he be that guy?
not against Stanford.
Because he's stronger than those other two.
No, he's not. He look, not against a team like Stanford that's going to run a 22, a 23 package.
Okay.
That's not the guy. Now for certain plays, yes, slants, and we started to slant. That was one of the adjustments that Grinch made, was slanting the defensive line. Okay, that takes your one gap, two gap into a simple one gap, get over there, take care of business. All right, it simplifies things. We're gonna have to do something like that against Stanford, which I know we're gonna talk about later. All right. We've got good athletes on the defensive line. We don't have enough of them. And I will tell you that our edge rush is not good. It's not good. Sorry. It can get good. We've got the guys that have the athleticism to make it good. I thought actually Figueroa played a pretty good game. So we're gonna need guys like that to step in and make things happen. I don't want to be, some dumping on everybody here, but I know what I'm saying, and I'm not worried about Rice, right? I didn't worry about Rice before the game, which is like really rare for me. Usually I get sick before a game. Stanford, all right, and I'm not putting them on a pedestal either, but they play the type of offense that is very difficult to fit the run gap properly. Okay, Shane Lee, I like. So he's going to have to get his guys aligned properly. We didn't get a good peek at the secondary on any fades, wheel routes, crossing patterns, long throws, vertical stuff. They weren't vertically challenged. Heck, they weren't challenged at all. That's okay. I mean, hopefully Stanford doesn't challenge us either. But I know what they did last year, and they've done it in other years.
All right,
Play
so
action, play pro and whatever, but we'll get to Stanford.
all right, let's get back on track here. So Mark, give us your letter grades for defensive line, linebackers, and secondary.
Defensive line gets a C. I don't think we need to add any more to that comment wise. The linebackers, I'm going to give them a B. I thought they were serviceable. They didn't make any mistakes. Secondary, they need to improve their tackling. That'll come. I'll give them a solid B. They held 140 yards passing for the game, so you got to give them some credit there. You want to go to special teams now, or just?
Let me just we're gonna go through everybody. Chris, is there a thing? Give us a grade for the three sections of the defense there, if you could.
Mark's grades are fine. C, B, B. I'm fine with that.
Okay, Kev.
Yeah, same. Let's not overdwell on that. We got other stuff to talk about.
Right, and so I'm going to give it the defensive line a C, 4 sacks. Linebacker grades a B. I liked Shane Lee. I was impressed with Gentry, some of his hitting.
Yeah.
I just don't know whether Gentry at 215 pounds or what he is, how he'll fare. It'd be a great test against a Stanford type of offense. So we'll learn something there. I thought the secondary got a B. Hey, you can't argue about 4 pass interceptions, and 3 of them were pick sixes. But again, as you guys pointed out, tip passes, that isn't going to happen every game. So let's move on to the secondary, or excuse me, the special teams. Give me an overall letter grade, and then we'll look at some specific grades with a brief comment. Mark, what was your thoughts? What grade did you give the special teams?
Yeah, you're going to give Alex an A on his kickoffs. I mean, every one of them either was a touchback at the goal line, or that one perfect coffin kick that Rice tried to return. Place kicking, Dennis Lynch. I mean, the guy almost tied USC school record of going 10 for 10, perfect PATs. He got 9 for 9 plus the field goal. A. Punting, they did it one time. Allegedly, that punt was intended to look like that, to kind of pin them deep. It was ugly.
It didn't work. Sorry.
I'm not buying that. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm just passing along what I heard.
No, that's all right. We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Ugly. It got
officer. I had my eyes closed when I made that turn. I mean, come on.
Returns, they had They totaled 2 for 4 yards. It's a lot harder dodging live players than it is a big bouncy ball that they work out of practice. So I don't get to see other than that. The special teams did not have to be impactful in this game whatsoever.
Everybody has to be impactful. That's why you play the game. So
They
they did not
could have
perform
scored
well.
all those touchdowns and missed every extra point, and they still would have covered.
We're not worried about covers. We're not worried about over and unders. We're not worried about any of that crap. We're worried about winning football games and playing well enough to play somebody who can really play football. We got one this week.
Kevin.
All right.
We're on the same page, Kevin.
All right, okay, let's move on here to Chris. What's your thoughts on the special teams overall?
It looked like, considering how many athletes USC has on the roster and how few athletes Rice has on their roster, the special teams look like a group that don't have a dedicated special teams coach. The kickoff unit wasn't exactly overwhelming with their coverage. Our punt returner needs to make the first guy miss and get north south. You can't run sideline to sideline. So it's not a game where as Mark pointed out, it's not a game where the special teams are going to hurt us. But there was nothing there that I was excited about. One short field goal and making extra points is fine. That's good. I mean, if I guess if LSU could have done that, they would be better off today. And by the way, that's funny. It's funny that happened to Brian Kelly, and I think we should all enjoy it just for a second. But there was nothing about the special teams that got me excited. And for a team that has that many athletes, we should be getting plays from those guys.
So what overall grade would you give it?
C-.
Okay. Kevin, you agree with Chris, or do you a little bit more optimistic?
No, I'm probably less. Well, I'm optimistic. They're going to get better. There's going to be attention paid to that group, different groups. The coverage was whatever. Everything we just said is correct. Right. So those are the things that'll get you beat against a good team. And that's why I get a little spooled up on that stuff. If you're going to go out and play football, you play good football. I don't care where the hell you play.
All right, I'm going to give the special teams a C+.
Easy.
What's that?
You're easy.
Well, I'll explain why I did that. I thought that there was parts of it that were above average, and I think there was parts of it that were not above average. And when I say average, I mean a C grade. So when I averaged out the 2 above and the 2 below, I said, okay, I'll give them a C first game. But there were some things that I was concerned about the punting. I said that last week. I took some heat on it, and about the field goal. I wanted to see them get some experience. Yep. I'm glad it happened. To those of you who disagree with me, now you know why I felt that way.
And right? those of us that agree with you are also right. All right. I just want to be clear on that one.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's get into some particulars. Mark, go down the list for me. Kickoffs, place kicking grade, punting, punt returns, and we'll get this thing moving here.
Oh, okay. I thought we did that already. So
what grade did you give the kickoffs?
Like I said, I give, as far as a kickoff from Alex, I gave him an A just because he did what he was supposed to do.
Okay.
If we want to talk about the coverage, I'll agree.
Let's go to place kicking.
I gave that an A as well. He was perfect.
Punting.
One punt. It got the job done, a C.
Okay. And you want to touch on punt returns coverage?
And the punt returns, like I said, he had Gary Bryant gained a couple of yards. I agree with Kevin. They need to get more north-south than east-west. So I give him a C.
Okay, fair enough. Chris, your thoughts on those 4 categories?
Nobody did anything well enough to stand out or bad enough to stand out that I want to talk about it. It was a C- overall. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Fair enough. Kevin?
Yeah, look, I would waste time on this topic beyond what we've already, we flogged this horse pretty good. However, I will say this, that these are the little things that become big things.
All right. I gave Alex an A-, 10 kickoffs, 7 touchbacks. I can buy that into that. Place kicking, I gave the guy an A. I mean, the guy, Dennis Lynch had not, kind of the surprise starter. Yeah, 9 of 9 PATs and 1 field goal. He did a great job for what he was asked to do. Punting, I gave it a D. 1 for 25 yards. I thought was it just didn't even look good when it left his foot. So I understand the strategy, but it was a dying quail to me. I had a lot of concern about the kickoff coverage, and I was looking at guys in lanes and things, and they just got to get better. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, they were crossing over lanes. It was good athletes were trying to outrun each other down the field. Not typically.
And that goes back to me to discipline. I'm not saying they're not teaching it. I'm just saying the players have to have accountability, and I'm sure that they will say it. It goes back actually, and we'll close this up. Chris, I thought, made a great point. They don't have a special teams coach. Now, is that an excuse for why this happens? I don't know. I guess beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. So it'll be interesting what happens down the line. So let's look to next week. The Stanford Cardinal. We begin the second quarter with a look at the Stanford Cardinal, who last season whipped the Trojans 42-28. Like you'd like to forget that in the Coliseum. Which within 24 hours, I might add, ultimately cost Clay Helton his job. Last Saturday, Stanford crushed Colgate 41-10 at Stanford Stadium, thanks to an outstanding performance by Cardinal quarterback and future NFL draft pick Tanner McKee. Stanford is coached by David Shaw, now in his 12th season. Can you believe that at Stanford? He has a record now of 94-45. Starting the season, Stanford returned 15 starters, 9 players on offense, 4 players on defense, and both their kicker and punter. The Trojans have opened up depending on how you want to look at which particular odds maker group, anywhere from 10.5 to 12-point favorites to beat Stanford up on the proverbial farm. By the way, the early Palo Alto weather forecast, I think, Mark, you're covering that game up there, right?
Yes.
For Saturday's 4:30 p.m. kickoff is expected to be partly cloudy with a high of 82 degrees. All right, panel. We're not going to get into great specifics, but we want to cover the Cardinal here. Your overall thoughts on the Cardinal and what must the Trojans do to defeat Stanford in the first conference game for both schools? Kevin, what needs to be done?
Yeah, you got to get Stanford's offense off the field. Get them off the field. Get Caleb on the field. Anything and all that can be done to accomplish that is worth the effort. Grinch is going to have to run the defense. He can't run that vanilla package. He'll get ripped to shreds. And it's not over cooking Stanford's capabilities. It's just their scheme against that defense that we saw against Rice is not going to work. It's going to be ugly. Again, and then you get the play action fit, you get play action, vertical stuff, seam throws to the tight end, wheel routes to the wide receivers. I mean, it's the same. The potential is for the same stuff we saw last season and in other games, frankly. So that said, for whatever reason, I want to have confidence that Grinch is going to make some adjustments, all right, on defense. And I think some of the adjustments up front is going to be with the defensive line, with a nose tackle in the 3-4 in basically a zero technique where the nose tackle lines up directly over the center, slanting across the center and slanting across the center's snapping arm, which is what you want to do. If he's right-handed, slap you want to as much as possible go across that right-hand side, right? Put some doubt in the center's mind as to what's going to happen. Cover up that A gap. You're going to have to roll a mic up to cover the A gap, either with a slant, positioning, first step, key to the read, whatever. The other thing that you can do is bring up the nickel back and have that nickel back take a peek at the A gap before moving into another assignment. Stanford is good enough and complex enough. They know their system. You know, Shaw's been there, as you said, 12 years. They know their system. Now, they also have the same defense that they had last year, which was, for most everybody except against us, they were not so great. Right. So we have an opportunity to put an offense out there they have never seen. They have never played against Caleb Williams. Never. They have not played against the amount of athleticism we have. They have not played against Travis Dye in Cardinal and Gold. We got one of their former guys in our backfield, which I love, frankly, by the way. I'll probably have them start just for the heck of it, just have some fun with it. I think the offense is going to have to win this game. The defense is going to get them off the field best they can. And there you go.
All right. Well, how do you go with it, Mark? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm going to be real brief on this. If USC can't stop Stanford's run game, because Tanner is going to do enough to move the chains.
Okay.
He doesn't have to have that big play capability. He just has to complete 4, 5, 6, 7-yard passes. The longer Stanford is on the field, it hurts USC. So I would prefer, let's just get into a shootout. Because I know that USC is going to be able to outscore Stanford. So it's, yeah, you want to see the defense improve, get better. But if they don't have the personnel, to Kevin's point, then you speed the game up. You help Stanford speed the game up. So I'm not really that worried about it. Like you said, this is the same defense that they had last year. USC now has a competent coaching staff. They have a guy who knows how to call a game offensively. And there's Caleb Williams back there. USC has never had a quarterback like this who you're going to call designed runs. You saw what happened when they did that one time against Rice. There's going to be more packages of that on Saturday. I think it's going to be okay. I think you're going to see a bigger defensive front. That's why I was asking about Solo earlier. I think you're going to see more of him. You're going to see more Nick out there, combined with like a Dejon Benton and a Peely. They're going to go bigger, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm talking, so it is my opinion.
Good point. Good point. It is your opinion, but let's find out what Arledge has to say about it. Chris, thoughts?
Well, I agree with Kevin that when you have a defense like USC's, that Stanford's offensive scheme is the sort of thing that can worry us. I'll be honest though, I'm not convinced that Stanford team's any good. I think the quarterback's good. I think he's going to make some plays. Stanford had an 87-yard touchdown run on the first play from scrimmage. They then had 27 carries for 82 yards against Colgate for the rest of the game. Colgate is not Rice. Colgate would get blown out by Rice. Colgate's an FCS team. They play against Ivy League schools. Colgate got blown out by Brown last year. Colgate is the sort of team that Stanford should have had 9 yards of carry running off tackle all game. They couldn't do it. Stanford's defense cannot stop USC. USC can stop themselves. They can turn the ball over. They can get holding penalties. They can do stupid things. Stanford cannot keep up with USC's offense. The Trojans are going to score more than 40 points in this game. And so the question is whether or not USC allows Stanford to dink and dunk, pick up 6 yards here, 5 yard out there. And if they do that, Stanford can shorten the game, make it where the teams are getting 9 possessions each instead of 14 or 15. Then if USC has a couple of stalled drives, Stanford can be in the game in the end. That's what they have to do. I would not do that. I would put 8 in the box. I would aggressively go after Stanford. I would bring my defensive backs up on the Stanford wideouts. I would play tight man coverage, and I would make Tanner McKee beat them downfield. He will make some plays downfield if they do that. He will. But I'm not worried about that. What I want to get stops about half the time, because if they get stops half the time, they're going to beat them by 30 points. Stanford's defense is in a world of hurt. Just don't let them shorten the game with that crap that they always pull. That's the only thing I don't want to have happen.
We got to take away, I'm sorry, we got to take away the fade route, the long fades. That's what that's where Stanford just absolutely destroys people when they get around to it. And I think with the way we're set up on defense, I didn't mean to interrupt, Chris.
No.
You take away the tight end. You take away the tight end, you take away the fade route, which is long wide receiver type route pattern. Then they're going to have to bang the ball. And I like our chances against them trying to bang the ball against us. I really do. I think we can play physical, and Grinch is going to throw a whole bunch of stuff at him. We're going to bring everybody at times from all kinds of angles.
I agree with that. And let's be clear. This is a major step up in talent from what Rice put on the field. I agree with that. We all know that, but it's not a good football team. USC should blow these guys out. They really should. They should blow them out. This is not a good football team. They were terrible last year. I don't have any reason to believe after what they did at Colgate that they're any good this year. Stanford's talent level has dropped off considerably over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
This is an average team at best. USC should roll them, and I think they will.
Yeah, if you take out their quarterback, they have no offense. I didn't mean to say make that sound like you put one in the wheelhouse there, but what I do mean is you want to put the guy on the ground a fair amount and get in his grill. Okay, just want to be clear. I don't like to have people get the wrong idea.
So no alley gay shots from last night.
Nah, no headshot.
Man.
If you get a headshot and get away with it, that's all right. Whatever. That's a linebacker talking.
That was brutal.
That's the game, brother. That's the game.
Well, I will say, as far as Stanford goes, this is going to be a game of possessions. It's standard fare. Stanford's going to try to possess the ball. They're going to try to shorten the game. They're going to test. I think they're going to test SC's defensive front. And I believe that Grinch will do everything he can to get to McKee. Little sidebar, the running back, of course, for Stanford is Emmitt Smith's son, wears number 22, and he's the one who broke the long one.
Yeah, that's cute. That's really cute. I'm impressed.
I thought that would tickle your fancy.
They went from Barry Sanders' son to Emmitt Smith's son. Isn't that amazing?
We got Jerry.
Does LaDainian Tomlinson have a kid that they're recruiting? What's going on?
Yeah, well, Joe Montana's kid was quarterback too. That didn't work out so good, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, let me complete my thought here. I think that SC, if they get the possessions that we think they should, they'll roll. But I think it will be a good test just for the future to seeing how the offense goes against the Stanford offensive line and the philosophy of Stanford, and how SC is patient and gets the ball and runs with it. So, it will be an interesting game to me. Plus, it's on national television with Kurt Herbstreit will be doing this one with Reese Davis. So a lot of national exposure. A lot of people will be watching on prime time. So this would be a good time to roll it up against the Cardinal up on the farm. So with that, let's get to halftime. I thought our last segment last week with some of the memories that I wanted to transition since we're starting off conference play. Since the modern era of USC football beginning in 1960, panel, what is your memory of the most glorious victory over Stanford and the most depressing loss to the Cardinal? So Chris, your thoughts on the positive and the negative?
Well, the most depressing loss is an easy one. I mean, I don't know how you could go. I don't know how you could go any way other than USC losing as a 42-point favorite to a Stanford team that was 0-12 the year before. I've never seen anything like it, and that just shows that even Pete Carroll was human, because that was brutal. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Most glorious victory over Stanford. I'll tell you the one that jumped into my mind right away. That was Ed Orgeron's victory over Stanford at the Coliseum when he was the interim coach, and had I think he played only 13 guys on defense that day.
Right.
And those guys balled out. I mean, every down they were bringing it. And that was just a fantastic effort from a team that just wanted it so badly. and a coach, frankly, that wanted it so badly too. And that was one of my favorite Ed Orgeron moments. I'm glad he got that moment. I'm glad the team got that moment. That was a great night.
Kevin, you're a little closer to the flame here in terms of experience with the Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah.
So what do you see as your memory of positivity and your memory of negativity?
Comes to Stanford, I have no positivity. I can't stand them. Almost went there, but too, by the way, that's just another story. Saw the error of my ways and made the right decision, went elsewhere, and Cardinal gold. That said, I will never forget walking down as a wee lad, I don't know, 19-year-old sophomore, getting ready to play. I was starting at the time, and coming down the field house, which you had to walk from the field house, which is above the stadium, through the eucalyptus groves and all this kind of stuff. All through.
This is at
This
Stanford.
is at Stanford, yeah.
Yeah.
Walking through all, and then hearing people, they're throwing drinks at us. They're throwing out racial epithets. Of course, Coach Goo told us, "Hey, keep your helmets on at all time, and don't anybody move outside of our group. Period. Don't do it. You won't play ever again." I think that was a quote, by the way. And from him, he meant it. So that was kind of a problem. And it was ugly. I mean, it was racist, ugly, nasty. I'm telling you, as you can probably see to this very day, I have a very dim view of these clowns. Now, let me tell you what, we got to the field and McKay brought us together. Only time this ever happened in my 4 years of playing. He brought us all together as a group. Let's put us, one knee. He says, "Now listen up. At the end of every play, I want every Stanford player on the ground. I don't care by how many points we beat them. I want them on the ground." We knew what the order was. It was Clubber Lane time. Beat the crap out of them because of what happened coming down out of that field house. McKay would have nothing to do with that. Therefore, first play of the game, they throw a swing pass. Danny Reese comes up. Kevin Bruce goes out. We both hit the guy at the same time. Boom, he's on the ground. He went to sleep. And that was play number one. And it was that way the rest of the game. So I still have a headache from one tackle I made, but that was worth it. So other than that, I have no real strong point of view with respect to Stanford. I would never take the first team out when I'm playing Stanford, ever.
Now, did you mention which loss in your lifetime was the most disappointing?
Any loss was bad. We had one my senior year. It was a field goal. It was one of those flipping deals where I was going to say something else. Where we just didn't put enough points on the board. We let the game get in the fourth quarter. Guy kicks, it was Garcia, kicks like a 59-yarder. It's like, oh crap, and that was we ended up losing that game. So we shouldn't have lost that one. So anyway, I remember that just because I remember the games I was in. Obviously, it's there. Chris is right. The ugliest game in the world was the 42-point underdog game. That was like destroyed that season. Some of the mystique, some of the Pete Carroll stuff just got, flaked off. I mean, the whole thing was
arrogance got the better of him that day.
Well, it did. Now they made a call on defense.
Now he should have made the call to take JD Booty out of the game, and he allowed him to stay.
Well, you may be right on that one, Mark. But what I'd say on defense is what I'm focused on. And when I think about that game, I think about the fade route to the corner. That was a bad call. That was a bad call. Stanford was looking for the one-on-one man cover. Whether it was going to be on that side or the other side, and the kid made the throw. I'll give him that. Anyway, so that was there will never be a Stanford game uglier than that one for everything that was writing on that outcome, in my humble view.
All right, we know that Mark won't have a humble view, but he definitely will have a view. So, Mark, what's the big win in your mind, and what's the big loss?
Yeah, look, I agree that loss when you're a 41.5 point favorite, 42-point favorite, should never happen. And that's why I said it goes back to Pete. He was arrogant twice in his career at USC, and it caught up to him. Well, a few more times. These 2 times, the first fake punt attempt at Notre Dame, when he didn't need to do it, USC was ahead going into halftime. And then this not taking Booty out of the game. The defense did not have to even be put in that position if you put in the backup quarterback. Moving forward, there's very few games that you want to give Stanford credit for that you say, hey, USC beat them. So I'm going to go. Chris mentioned the Ed Orgeron one. I'm going to mention beating the conference championship game.
Yeah.
The most disappointing game to me. At first, it was going to be that 2000 game when Chris Lewis kind of just threw the game winner as time expired in the end zone. USC was already, that made them 0-4 in conference. So we know how that season finished. It wasn't a good year. So I'm going to go back to what's your deal. That was a really difficult game to stand or sit through. Man, that was disappointing because they were doing whatever the hell they wanted.
Yep.
And they were doing it with the way USC should do that to teams. It was almost,
and we were spoiled then, right? Because we had seen USC just beat on people for years at that point. And to see somebody just push USC around and humiliate them on the Coliseum like that, that was tough to watch. I agree with that.
I gave the Stanford team that beat USC, the 41-point underdog, I gave them a standing ovation when they came off the field, just because they did what.
And I'm glad I wasn't sitting next to you. Jeez.
Well, you got to tip your hat.
Oh, baby. Oh, no.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And
fair
here's the
enough.
thing, here, to your point, Kevin, those players weren't sure how to react. I mean, they were looking up at us like, that's the thundering herd that was doing this. So we respected what they did. Just from that, look, you got blood and sweat in this game. I get it. But from a fan perspective, I had to kind of tip the hat for that.
You respected what they did, and that was fine. But the what's the deal issue is still it's still there, guys. And I tell you what, and add on that what I just shared with everybody with respect to the racism that these people showed. Screw them. I'd never take the first teams out, never. But that's just Kevin Bruce talking.
All right, now here's Greg Katz talking. I will tell you that the most exhilarating win that I have witnessed in my many decades of watching the Cardinal and Gold had to be 1969 when it looked bad in the Coliseum, and SC had to go. I think it was something like 80 yards, something in that vicinity, give or take 10 yards. And it didn't look, they only had, I think it was 49 seconds or 50 seconds to do it. And I remember there was like a 4th and 7. And I mean, I couldn't believe it. McKay called for an off tackle run by future All-America tailback Clarence Davis. And then there was a big pass to Jerry Moon Mullins out of Anaheim High School, who eventually converted from a tight end at SC to an offensive guard with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in comes Ron Ayala, forever will remember it. He was a former quarterback at Lakewood High School and a great free safety at SC, and also a punter, place kicker. And he hits this field goal as time expires, and they literally took victory out of the jaws of defeat. It was incredible. One of the few times I've seen the crowd, especially in that time period, run onto the Coliseum turf, and people were going crazy. And I can tell you, the look in the players' eyes were like they were angry even when they won. The best or worst loss to me is, I mean, we don't have to go into any deal, in this 2007 with Carroll and Harbaugh, 24-23. It was just dumbfounding. And I think what makes the game apart from the other losses to Stanford was the underdog. I think two things: the underdog situation, with their 41 points, something like that, and the other one was Bradford, who made the winning catch. That was a hotly debated recruiting war between the Trojans and Stanford, because I think Bradford went to Manual Arts or one of the local inner city schools, thought they had him, and then he decided to go to Stanford. So some really incredible memories of this rivalry that goes back for so many years. All right. Before we begin the second half, reminder that you're watching or listening to WeAreSC.com's Inside the Trojans Huddle. This week's We Are SC columnists include Marc Kulkin, Chris Arledge, Kevin Bruce. I'm your moderator, Greg Katz. We also encourage you to check out the WeAreSC.com website, part of the On3 network, and become a subscriber to the best coverage of USC football, recruiting, and overall coverage of USC athletics. And a reminder that WeAreSC.com is offering a 1-week free trial of WeAreSC.com, which includes breaking stories, analysis, recruiting, and data for USC football, basketball, and the balance of USC athletics. So let's head into the third quarter playoff expansion. This is the big topic. How is it going to affect SC? The playoffs, according to the College Football Playoff Committee and their lords of the rings, are expanding from 14 to 12 teams, possibly as early as 2024 and no later than 2026. The 12-team model includes playoff spots for the 6 highest conference champions and 6 at-large teams. The way the format is played out right now, first round games we played at the home stadium of the higher seeded team or a site requested by the higher seeded team per reports. Quarterfinals and semifinals will likely be held at both sites, with the championship game being played at a large capacity neutral site stadium. All right, panel, we know what the goal of USC is. It's always been the goal until we were sidetracked under the he that shall not be named last era. Your thoughts on the new 12-team format that will arrive in time for the 2024, 2025, or 2026 season? What are the positives and negatives? What do you take away from it from a point of view of a USC person? Mark, how do you feel about this expansion?
Love it. It'll start in 2024. Can't wait. It's all positive for me. I can't wait. In fact, I think it's going to expedite the process of getting the super conferences going. I think you're going to see more movement starting throughout by the end of the year and through 2023, 2024, they will get the ball rolling.
All right, Chris, what do you think about this? And Mark brought up a point. He thinks it's 2024 it's going to start. Are you that optimistic that they're going to move it up to 2024? Your thoughts?
I don't know. I proved last time we talked about this, which was only a week or two ago, I showed that I have no idea what I'm talking about because I thought it was going to take them. I thought it was going to take them real time to make this happen. So I don't know. I'll just say 2025, and it's just a pure guess. As a fan of college football, these games are going to be so much fun. I mean, really, look, we had already lost some of the traditions of the bowl games, and I think I'm okay with that. I made my peace with it. The Rose Bowl hasn't been the Rose Bowl for a long time now, and I never really cared that much about the other games, other than I wanted to see great football. So you have a 12-team playoff. You're going to have the first round is 5 against 12, and it's and 6 against 11, and you play that out, and you think that's a lot of good football games, right? I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. USC under Lincoln Riley should be in that playoff 2/3 of the time. They really should. I mean, you're talking about, you're probably, some of those conference winners may be outside of the top 12. So you're not guaranteed to get in if you're in the top 12. But if you're a top 10 team, you're probably going to get in almost all the time, even if you don't win your conference. There's no reason why USC under this coach shouldn't be in it most of the time. I don't know that I love this, that the top 4 seeds get a bye. That is a huge advantage to get a bye. And the difference and having that committee select who's number 5 versus who's number 4.
Right.
I don't love that. It's not the way I would have done it. I just would have made it the top 8 teams because number 12 is never going to win this thing anyway. Doesn't mean I want to watch them play, because I do. I'll always watch the number. I will always watch a college football game with number 5 against number 12. I will. I'm going to watch that game every time. So it's not that I don't want to watch the games. It's just that numbers 9 through 12 will never win the college football playoff. Whereas in basketball, numbers 9 through 12 have as good a shot as 1, 2, 3, or 4 most years. But that being said, yeah, I'm excited about it. I can't wait to watch it.
Kevin, what's your thinking now? You played in the Rose Bowl, so you feel that tradition, but are you ready to get the playoffs started? And when do you think it'll actually happen?
Well, to Chris's point, I'm already way past, Rose Bowl traditions and all that. And yes, I did have the benefit of playing in it a whole bunch of times. Won a few. Oh well, that was then. This is now. Look, playoffs are going to happen. Let's do it. Let's do it right. All good. Let's watch good football teams play each other. This does force the SEC to actually play people late in the season beyond Little Sisters of the Poor. Okay, so way to go, guys! You're going to get some real football games when it counts.
And we pointed that out. Watch Alabama's future out of conference schedules. They're already packing them up.
Yeah, there you go.
TV is going to decide when this starts, and that's going to be in 2024. It's going to happen.
Hey, speaking of Alabama and out of conference schedules, they get Sark this week, and I don't think that's one of the games we're going to pick. But I almost always root against Alabama, right? I mean, that's just something that I feel like I have to do as a moral person. But I don't know. This week, I think if they hung 70 on Sark, I might enjoy that a little bit.
I'm sure you'll have others in the peanut gallery agreeing with you. I am going to say that I would love for the playoffs to start at 2024. It's going to come down to money. I think it's money why they've rushed to get a 12-team playoff. I think if they can work it out with the bowl games, I mean, it's easy to say the first round bye. It's easy to say home team will, the higher seed team will take it, which I think is good. They can work out the bowl games. If everyone is going to, put in their chips for the good of the cause. So I'm hoping for 24. I think it'll be 25, but my heart goes with 24. I think nothing but good for USC and USC fans. This has always been the goal. So let's get it on. All right. You know what time it is. Many of you have been waiting for it. Many of you have fast forward after this wonderful discussion because you want to get to this point. And that is the fourth quarter of Inside the Trojans Huddle with the traditional lighting of the Chris Arledge Coliseum torch. There we go. And again, in preparation for Musings with Arledge, the disclaimer, of course, any reminder, any comments or opinions expressed by Chris Arledge are solely those of his own. They're not in any shape or form a reflection or the opinions of WeAreSC or the On3 Network. Any republication, broadcast, rebroadcast use, or other descriptions of Musings with Arledge without the express written consent of the Kardashian family and the Playboy Mansions of America is strictly prohibited. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to bring to you the Inside the Trojans Huddle version of Christopher Arledge's Musings with Arledge.
Thanks, Greg. Oregon coach Dan Lanning just had the worst trip to Georgia since Ned Beatty went canoeing there. And like Ned's trip, Dan's trip was filmed for our entertainment. And I'll tell you, I almost missed it. I was in London. I was struggling with my iPad for 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out how to change my cable provider information so I could log on to the ESPN app. And I almost quit. I considered it. But heroically, like the Winston Churchill of Oregon hate, I refused to surrender, no matter the odds. And let me just say, kids, perseverance really does pay off because that was glorious. Now, some people believe it's wrong to gloat when your enemy is down. And if you're one of those people, you might want to look the other way for the next few minutes. As you know, Dan Lanning took the Oregon job when yet another coach left Oregon for a better football program, something that seems to happen every 3 to 4 years. Lanning did 3 things when he got that job. First, he assembled the best staff of young used car salesmen in the country, a whole crew of guys who may not be able to coach, but have been trained since birth to trick high school kids into thinking they can. That's not entirely a criticism. Dan Lanning got it. He recognized right away that Oregon was all flash and no substance. And if you have a crappy product to sell, you better hire some really good salesmen. And he has. Now, every program has a guy or two like that. Oregon has about a dozen. Lanning collects great recruiters who can't coach the way sailors collect venereal diseases. by paying people most everybody else knows you should not touch. And now, because they didn't really have a choice, the Ducks have officially unveiled on national television, no less, the true nature of the product they're selling. It was my favorite public unveiling since Geraldo opened Al Capone's vault, and it looked just like Oregon's trophy case. You're probably not going to like that Yelp review, Coach Lanning. Second thing Lanning did, he went out and got a transfer quarterback to build his offense around. He went and snagged Bo Nix of Auburn. Now, I think we can all agree that Bo didn't have the Oregon debut that he had wanted. But maybe you're wondering, was Bo Nix spectacular at Auburn and simply had an off day this weekend? Nope. Bo knows Ducks, and he knew how to throw them long before he became one. There's plenty more where that came from. This weekend may not have been Bo's finest hour, but it wasn't an unusual hour for him either. It was just another hour between noon and 8 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, and Bo was being Bo. Bo Nix's primary qualification at Auburn was that he had a dad who was very famous who played quarterback at Auburn. Auburn making Bo Nix the foundation of its program was like locking up Hunter Biden to sit on your board of directors. It's something you do because the old man wants you to. Auburn didn't think keeping dad happy was worth it anymore, so Bo Nix needed a new place to go. So now the college football Don Jr. has been handed the keys to Oregon's offense instead. Now, Dan Lanning, I don't want to gush because people are going to get the wrong idea. They'll think I'm showing favoritism to you just because you're a fellow William Joel Cardinal. But let me just say thank you. Thank you for making that decision, for selecting Bo Nix and for giving him the ball. It was a brave thing you did. Most people would not have done it. And there are millions of us from all over the country who really do appreciate it, not just Kirby Smart. The third thing Dan Lanning did is start telling the whole world how Oregon is the SEC of the West. That's been their talking point all offseason. They said it over and over again. What nobody knew is that this particular SEC of the West that Coach Dan Frankenstein was creating was some sort of unholy combination of Vanderbilt football and Mississippi State academics. It's alive. I just hope this new SEC of the West doesn't have to play the SEC West. I don't know how much more Oregon versus the SEC that even I could watch. Hannibal Lecter would be queasy after seeing that much blood. Tip to any high school recruit who is trying to figure out whether to buy that car from Tosh and crew. You may want to check the Carfax on that one. I'm told it's been in a pretty big wreck already. Now, of course, it's hard as a USC fan to watch what happened to Oregon this weekend and not remember Clay's debut against Alabama. The similarities are eerie. Opening game, national television audience, a battle in an NFL stadium in the South against a traditional SEC power, and a 46-point beatdown, which exposes your program for what it really is, a pretender. But hey, Dan, maybe you'll bounce back like Clay did and find yourself in the Rose Bowl at the end of the season. You only need Bo Nix to turn into Sam Darnold first. Let's see if Uncle Phil can buy you one of those on short notice. Oh, and for those keeping score, like I am, in its last 5 games, Oregon has 4 blowout losses. Quack, quack. But it wasn't all ugliness in Georgia this weekend. We also saw the debut of a new Georgian, Clay Aiken-Helton, whose Georgia Southern squad warriored their way to a win over lower division foe Morgan State. Now, I don't want to get too far out in front of this thing because I realize it was only 1 game. But it's hard not to feel excited about Georgia Southern football right now. You can just tell when you watch them, which nobody can because their games aren't televised, that that's a team led by someone who is related to someone who once coached offensive linemen. It just jumps out at you. Now, I know some of you are saying, but wasn't Clay embarrassingly bad at his last stop? Well, sure he was. About as bad as you can be at a job without getting arrested for criminal negligence. But Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, Kim Kardashian, all of them had to overcome embarrassing starts to their careers before achieving superstardom. So Clay's in fine company. You say, but Chris, doesn't Clay still have that really dumb look on his face on the sideline? Well, yes. But so what? Lou Holtz didn't have to get rid of his lisp and to win a national title. Frank Beamer didn't have to get that thing removed from his neck before he became successful. And look at Willem Dafoe. That dude looks super weird, and he's been doing all right for years. So stop being so shallow, people. You have to actually read the book. Don't judge Clay by his hillbilly-looking cover. But Chris, you say, it's only 1 game. And didn't Clay just beat some school named Morgan Fairchild University, perhaps? She's kind of old, and small. That doesn't sound impressive. Yes, but you're missing the point. Clay gets it now. You can't change your partner. Too many people get married thinking they can and realize the truth much too late. After spending years of trying to change USC, trying to turn USC into a football program nobody has ever heard of, Clay Helton has simply gone to the kind of place he never should have left. Country roads took him home to the place he belongs, coaching against teams nobody has ever heard of and places nobody wants to go. He's picking on guys his own size now, and he's starting to hit his stride. It's bachelor season, and Clay is on the hunt for a new love of his life. He's watching film, showing situational mastery, giving out game balls to all of the bosses. He's hanging out where there are people who listen to the things he says and actually think some of them might actually be true. He's honoring the late, great Olivia Newton-John by telling everybody who will listen that his teams are going to get physical. He's living the dream. Here's to you, Clay. As we all know, you made Musings, sir. It never would have started, survived, or even been read without you. So congrats on the win. I really can't describe just how thrilled I am that you're there.
All righty, there you have it. The great Chris Arledge, Musings with Arledge on Inside the Trojans Huddle, which takes us to today's fourth quarter. Briefly giving the week 1 results of the Pac-12 team, and then the panel will give their predictions. All the conference teams in action for week 2. First, let's take a quick look at the results of the Pac-12 in the first week of the season. So, in order and quickly, ASU 40, Northern Arizona 3, TCU 38, Colorado 13, UCLA 45, Bowling Green 17, Arizona 38, San Diego State 20, Georgia 49, Oregon 3, Cal 34, UC Davis 13, Florida 29, Utah 26, Stanford 41, Colgate 10, Washington State 24, Idaho 17, Oregon State 34, Boise State 17, Washington 45, Kent State 20, USC 66, Rice 14, and as Chris has just pontificated, Georgia Southern 59, Morgan State 7 in a crusher. All right, panel, now let's take a look at week 2 predictions. Give us your winner for each game and a brief comment, and brief is the key word for all of us. All games this week are on Saturday. All games, times listed are Pacific Standard Time. So we'll go in the rotation of Kevin, Mark, Chris, and myself. Let's start off with Southern Utah 1-0 at Utah 0-1, 10:30 a.m. Pac-12 networks. There is no line in this game. So Kevin, how do you start off with you? What do you think?
Yeah, when there's no line, that pretty much tells you where you need to go. So yeah, Utah just takes care of business big time.
Chris?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mark. I beg your pardon. I'm wrong. Mark, go ahead.
Utah.
Okay, Chris?
Did I have to wait because you wanted to build suspense on this pick? I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with Utah, Greg.
Oh, that's touching. And I will take Utah. All right, here we go. Colorado 0-1 and Air Force 1-0, 12:30 p.m. CBS, Air Force by 14. What say you, Kevin?
Air Force.
Mark?
Colorado covers.
Wow. Okay.
Covers. You mean, wait.
Did they win or did they cover?
Well, this isn't a cover story. This is like win, lose stuff, right? This is not about the spread or the over/under. Come on, brother.
Well, you're
Who wins?
Holding your feet to the fire. Okay, Mark.
If people want to hear what Mark thinks so they can make money, I have no problem with that.
Air Force will win the game. Colorado will cover. I think it says the same thing. Go ahead. Let's move forward.
All right, I will take Air Force because I think they'll be more disciplined, and I think Colorado is basically a train wreck.
Yeah.
Let's go Washington State 1-0 at Wisconsin, 1-0, 12:30 p.m. on Fox. Wisconsin favored by 17. Kevin?
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. So who else? Washington. Yeah, Washington wins that one.
This is Washington State.
Washington State at Wisconsin. That's a bold pick, Kevin.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the other W. Wisconsin.
Okay, the other Wisconsin. Okay, you're going with Wisconsin. Mark?
Yeah, whiskey.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, big.
Okay, I agree. Wisconsin big at Camp Randall Field. All right, Portland State 0-1 at University of Washington, 1-0, 1 p.m. Pac-12 Network in Washington area. No line in this game. Kevin?
Yeah, Washington wins this one.
Okay, Mark?
Agreed.
Chris?
I'm not talking about that game.
Thank God for that. Chris, I will take Washington. It's ridiculous they're even playing Portland State. All right, UNLV 1-0 at Cal, 1-0, 1 p.m. Pac-12 Networks Bay Area. Cal favored by 13.5. Kevin?
Yeah, Cal wins that one.
Mark?
Agreed.
Chris?
Bears.
Okay, I'll take the Bears too. UNLV has just not been the same for decades, it seems to me. All right, Alabama State 1-0 at UCLA, 1-0, 2 p.m. Pac-12 Networks. No line on this game. Kevin?
Yeah, I think UCLA might squeak one out.
Mark?
Alabama State banned.
Okay.
I don't care about this game. I hope for another block punt to start the game.
Fair enough. Chris?
So what's interesting about this game is not who's going to win, because we know that the Bruins are going to win this one. But, Alabama State averaged almost 18,000 fans a game for their home game. UCLA had 26 at their home opener. In fact, I think that there's a decent chance that Kevin had more people at his barbecue Saturday than there were at the Rose Bowl. If you saw it, that was the most horrific. It looked like you would expect that many people to show up to a practice at the Rose Bowl. Just embarrassing. So I don't think UCLA gets anywhere near Alabama State's 18,000 attendance figure when they play their home games. And I think Alabama State is going to be laughing at UCLA players because their fans no longer care. But the Bruins will win. They'll probably win 60-5 or something like that.
Totally agree. It's a waste of time, but they'll be 2-0 after this week. ASU 1-0 at Oklahoma State, 1-0, 4:30 p.m. ESPN2, Oklahoma State by 13.5. Kevin?
Yeah, Oak State takes that one. That's an easy call.
Mark?
Yeah, you know what? That Emory, the quarterback for ASU, he's dangerous. Not with his arm, but with broken plays. I'm going to go Oklahoma State, but this one I don't feel confident.
Chris, you have some familiarity with the state of Oklahoma.
I do.
Who's picking?
I do. I'm going Oklahoma State, and I think they're going to win big. This is going to be the start of the Herm Edwards goodbye tour.
Totally agree. I'm going with Oklahoma State big. Eastern Washington 1-0 at Oregon 0-1, 5:30 p.m. Pac-12 Networks. No line. Kevin?
Yeah, I might even watch this one just for fun, see what Chris comes up with next week. Yeah, so I think Oregon might pull this one out, but it could be a squeaker.
Mark, is it going to be a squeaker?
I'm going to pick Oregon, but I am praying for that upset. I mean, literally praying for this one, because I know Chris is going to go in raw next week if it happens.
All right, Chris, who's going to win it?
Is this the worst slate of games in Pac-12 history? Has there been a single game so far that is? I mean, I almost turned this program off 3 minutes ago, and I'm on the show. I don't even know what to do about it. Yeah, Oregon's going to win, and then they're going to get cocky again. They're going to think that they're world beaters.
Yeah, there's one good game on this whole slate, and that's ours. So there you go.
All right, I'm picking Oregon. I think that Lanning will sit there and say, win it for Arledge. All right, Oregon State 1-0 at Fresno State, 1-0, 7:30 p.m. CBS Sports Network, Fresno State by 1. I actually think this is actually a good game to watch.
This is a good game.
Yeah.
So what say you, Kev?
Yeah, I'll take Fresno State.
Wow. Okay. Mark?
Yeah. Agreed. I think Fresno, this is there. We got to win this game, and then we're heading down to LA to see what we can do.
All right, Chris.
I think Fresno's looking ahead to SC. I think they've been talking to family members all week, trying to figure out how they're going to organize tickets and make sure that, cousin Johnny has a ticket also. I think they're looking ahead of a pretty decent Oregon State team. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to pick the Beavers.
Okay, I will take the Fresno State. I'm not confident in it. I think it would be wonderful if at Fresno State won, providing that SC can do their business. And I think it'll be a sold-out Coliseum the following week. So go Bulldogs. Mississippi State 1-0 at Arizona. 1-0, 8 p.m. Fox Sports 1, FS1. Mississippi State by 10. What say you guys? We'll start off with Kevin. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I think the magic is done. So Mississippi State wins this game.
Okay, Mark.
Oh, I disagree. I think the Pac-12 gets their SEC revenge on this game. I'm going Arizona.
All right. Chris?
I think Mississippi State probably wins, but I think Arizona is going to give them a game. I think they're going to play with them.
All right, and I'm going to go with Mississippi State only because I think that Leach will figure out a way to do it, although it would not shock me if Arizona pulls the upset, not in any shape or form. All right, USC 1-0 at Stanford, 1-0, 4:30 p.m. ABC. USC by, depending on your bookie, either 10.5 or 12. What say you, Kevin?
Yeah, we're gonna win this game. 10.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, USC. And
Okay.
I'm tending to feel Chris's vibe on this one, that USC might win big.
All right, Chris, your vibe.
Yeah, look, Alex Grinch has some stuff to worry about this week. He has some stuff to prepare for. But Stanford's defensive coordinator, whoever that is, that guy doesn't have anything to worry about. That guy's going to get his head caved in. USC will score early and often. They'll put up 45 points. They will blow out the Cardinals.
All right, I will take SC. I think the game could be closer than Chris thinks it's going to be, although I hope he's right. But it all depends on how many possessions Stanford gets compared to SC. If SC gets a lot of possessions, it is going to be a rout. But it'll be interesting to see if Stanford can control the game and time of possession. All right, and now for our new weekly prediction feature presented by the unofficial Clay Helton fan club, where panel predicts the outcome of Gentleman Clay's Georgia Southern Eagles. Okay, go Eagles. They are 1-0. They are playing at Memorial Stadium and the vaunted Nebraska Cornhuskers, who are 1-1. That's a 4:30 p.m. game on FS1. The odds say Nebraska by 21. Kevin, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think Georgia Southern will finish the game. And there may not be a full bus when they're done.
All right, Mark.
You know, for as much grief as Clay Helton earns for his coaching acumen, Scott Frost really challenges that. Look, this team struggled at home against North Dakota. Yeah, they won by 14 points, but they struggled at home against North Dakota. I'm not going to be surprised if the Fighting Heltons win this game.
All right. All right.
For that reaction alone.
Look, we've done a lot of episodes, and there have been a lot of dumb things said on these episodes. I've said many of them myself. I've never heard anyone on the program say anything as dumb as that. Look, here's the thing about this game, and I haven't looked forward to a Nebraska game this much in years. But the thing that how many Clay Helton games have we watched? 60, 70, 80, however many it is. How many times did Clay Helton beat a team with superior talent? That doesn't happen ever. Unless Clay Helton is substantially better at every position, he loses. And I haven't studied the rosters. but I'm going to guess that Nebraska probably has better athletes than Georgia Southern.
They do.
This is going to be a rout. Clay will use up all 3 of his timeouts in the first 46 seconds of the first half. They're going to have 48 penalties. And I don't know how many times he's going to have that shocked look on his face, but he will be the only one shocked because everybody else knows what's going to happen. It's going to be a meltdown, and it's going to be glorious.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I hate to be the contrarian here, but I am strongly picking Georgia Southern to upset Nebraska. And I'll tell you why. One, there is no doubt in my mind that Georgia Southern is going to be more physical than Nebraska.
Okay, stop.
There is no doubt in my mind that Georgia Southern
They're warriors, Greg. They're warriors.
more, we're getting to that. More disciplined than Nebraska will ever be under Scott Frost. Reason number 3, Helton is the son of an offensive line coach, and that's what I know, that they will possess, have the greater number of possessions. And 4, probably as important as anything else, Helton is the son of a former college head coach. And I think that's going to be the difference right there. He knows how to play games like this. The only question in my mind is, will Georgia Southern's players, upon entering the field at Memorial Stadium, will they be on all 4s barking like dogs like they did at the start of the game against Nebraska in Arlington, Texas at the time? So, so for that, I'm going to pick Georgia Southern by a field goal or a safety. All right. Overtime, questions and answers. And we had a lot of questions. Thank you, viewers. I had to condense a lot of them, but I know now that we're in season, a lot of questions, comments. So once again, if you'd like to submit a question for the panel that we can answer or give you our opinions, just go to either the Gary P or We Are SC members message boards at wearesc.com. From there, you'll see the topic thread regarding questions for Inside the Trojan Huddle. All right, question 1 from Lonnie in Woodland Hills, California. I was at the game, meaning the Rice game, frying but having fun. And while on the whole, I think there are a lot of positives from this game, such as 12 receivers catching balls today. Caleb is all we hoped for. He would be 200 plus yards rushing. It seemed like the first string O-line played well, and we had 3 picks, 6s, 4 interceptions. I still feel very concerned again about the D-line and its inability to pressure the quarterback. Defense played tougher in the second half, but that was a true second half change from the staff. Or was it due to Rice playing their second string quarterback? If we had played Stanford today, would they have shredded our defense? Also, thoughts and consequences, on the Romero Height ejection. Does Marc Kulkin consider it a good personal foul? So, Mark, since he called you out, why don't you first address that?
Well, maybe he saw the post-game interview, because I asked Alex Grinch if he was okay with that. Lincoln Riley said he's okay with, personal fouls if it's coming from effort and not out of, maliciousness. So I didn't really think it was a bad targeting call. I mean, by the letter of the rule, you got to call it. I'm okay with it, to answer that question.
I agree with you, Mark. It was definitely targeting. Any other comments on this particular question? Kevin, do you have any thoughts on this fear of defense against Stanford?
Oh, well, they're not. Yeah, they're going to have to play a much better football game, obviously, against a much better, what should be a much more talented Stanford than Rice was. So that's for sure. The targeting call, I think the rule sucks. So there you go.
All right, let's move on to question 2 from JM641 in the Midwest. How concerned are you guys about the ability of our D to stop a more dedicated, run it down your throat opponent that has the benefit of legit Power 5 talent? It looked to me like we were still blown off the ball too often. Take a look at Rice's second TD as an example, despite the meaningful talent gap. I'm overjoyed with the win, but it feels like a bit of fool's gold, as that avalanche of pick sixes won't be repeated and we'll be facing real rosters. Thanks and fight on. Comments?
Well, I think we covered this quite a bit already. Yeah, I mean, this defense still has some big question marks, and they're going to have to make plays against better offenses. But We'll see. I think they're going to get better. And I think if a team wants to beat USC, they're going to have to score a lot of points. A lot of points.
Agreed on all counts. All right, let's go to question 3. SC, the one in the OC. What surprised you the most in this game? One on offense or on defense? Bonus question, your favorite player and play of the game. Relax, Arledge. Yes, I can count to 3, or is it actually 4 questions? I know I'm towing the line here. Chris, since he brought you out and called you out, why don't you take this one first?
No, since he called me out, I'm not going to answer any of them.
Wow. What an attitude.
Don't do that.
What an attitude.
Yeah.
Was there anything, guys, that surprised you the most on offense or defense? Which side of the ball surprised you the most? Let's put it that way.
I think the answer is the defense surprised the most, just because of the athleticism that they displayed. To have back-to-back plays with pick sixes from your linebacking core, to see Kalen Bullock chase the guy down 55 yards, and then on the very next play, return the ball 93 yards the opposite direction. My favorite play was seeing Solo on the field and recording a sack.
And we can understand why. For those of you that don't know the story about Solomon Tuiapupu, is the fact was a great player coming out of high school, won the high school version of the Butkus Award, and has had nothing but bad luck. In fact, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all.
Right.
We're all, I think we all speak in agreement with Mark that it's great to see him on the field. Hopefully he can have a successful and impactful rest of the way in 2022. I thought that, man, I have to tell you, my favorite player was Caleb Williams, not because all the hype, but you could really see how he would be really hell on wheels to try to defend. And the play of the game, I don't know, there was a lot of plays of the game. I guess the pick sixes were exciting. So that's what I'll go with. All right, questions 4 and 5 from Corona Trojan fan in Vancouver, Washington. And I combined it with Rod Garnet 51. First question was Corona Trojan, was Rayleigh Brown injured? I know that he hobbled off the field. Mark, you were down there in the locker room area. What was there? Is there any scuttlebutt? Did you see how he was walking up the tunnel?
When he got tackled on that wrong reception toward the end of the game, got rolled up on a little bit, looked like a sprained ankle, iced up, and then before he got on the bus, he had one of those little short walking boots that you put on. He didn't look too concerned.
Okay. Garnet 51. I was surprised Gary Bryant didn't play more. Why?
I have to.
There's too many good players out there. That's why. Find a home, make it work, take advantage of your opportunities, and try to make something happen.
Who are they going to put on the bench? I mean, they're not going to put it.
Play 11 guys at a time. So.
They're not going to put Williams. And Taj Washington looked pretty good. So I don't know who they're supposed to sit in order to make space for him.
A lot of good guys.
Yeah.
And he was hurt for at least 2 weeks of fall camp. So maybe that played a little bit of a role. Who knows?
Get guys off take the guys off the injury island or whatever the heck they call that thing. That's
rehab island.
Yeah, rehab island. That's silly. So I'm sorry.
I think one that's the shelf is stocked with outstanding receivers. Remember, Terrell Bynum didn't play, to my knowledge. So he wasn't the only one. And I think this is a case of numbers. But you know what? Things happen. Players get hurt. You'll make an opportunity. So I wouldn't freak out over Gary or Bynum. They'll get their shot. Question 6 from HUD in San Diego. Based on the Rice game, which line has so far made the most progress since last season? Offense or defense, and why?
Offensive line. I don't. Right now, it's not close. It's going to be close, but right now it's not. The offensive line has improved. We'll see what they do against Stanford. I think they'll do well. They're solid. The calls were good. There wasn't any big blows that I saw on the offensive line. D line has got work to do. That's okay. We know that. Yeah, it's okay.
All right. I think the offensive line is a veteran group. I expected him to play well. Defense, I think has still a ways to prove it up front. So I'm going to go with the offensive line as well. Chris, did you have a thought on that?
No, I agree with both of you.
Okay, question 7 from Crown of the Valley in Capital City. In your opinion, each panelist, in parenthesis, who were the Trojan MVPs of the Rice game on each side of the line of scrimmage? I'll say Caleb Williams on offense, and I'm going to go with Shane Lee on defense, who had really a great game for a starting middle linebackers position.
Caleb Williams and Kalen Bullock.
Worthy selections. Kevin?
Yeah, I have to agree with Mark on that. I'm good.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to give Mark's choices as well, but you're right. Shane Lee also played well.
All right, question 8 from Barry
Good.
G, the OC. How will our D-line perform against Stanford's EJ Smith, Emmett Smith kid? Looks like a problem to me. Again, that's Barry G and the OC. I think it depends on whether Stanford's offensive line and perhaps some scheming as well performs to see how our D-line reacts to it all.
We're going to put some guys in the backfield. We'll see how guys like running when there's people that are 2 or 3 yards deep in the backfield. I'm not worried about him, frankly. He's not a game changer for a good defense.
All right, let's move on to question 9 from David in Merced, California. Other than wide receiver and quarterback, who does the panel think is USC's best and deepest position? I'll just say wide receivers at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, wide receiver is probably the deepest spot. The running backs are pretty deep. Safeties are pretty good. Not sure about.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I know you love to talk about special team. It's an embarrassment of riches, frankly. So,
Other than wide receiver and quarterback, I think the offensive line can go 8 deep.
Okay, and our final question, 10, from Robert from Riverside, California. Does the panel think that the Will and Mike positions, those are linebacker positions, should have their respective depth chart switched? In other words, the players in the positions that are Will, should the Will guys be Mike? Should the Mike guys be Will? I defer to the defensive guy gurus.
No. They got the right guy, Mike. You run Shane at Mike. You got to get people in the right position. Will is perfect for Gentry, I think, frankly, because of his cover, his lateral movement. Obviously, his length is special. Inside plays, I think he's actually going to be okay. He's going to surprise people. I continue to say that. I continue to be right, I think. And I like the way it's set up. Shane Lee is your middle linebacker, inside linebacker. Yeah, and really should he'll be moving a lot into the backfield area this coming week.
The reason that question exists, Kevin, is because when the depth chart was released before the game, it showed them flipped. It showed Shane Lee at Will and Gentry at Mike, and I think that's what surprised everybody.
I think the chart was wrong. That's not how they played.
Yeah.
That's what's so ironic. I mean, so maybe someone screwed up in the administrative office, or maybe Clay Helton's still hanging around.
Kevin, let me just we'll wrap this up here. For those that are not knowledgeable on what a Will linebacker does and what a Mike linebacker does, can you give us a brief explanation for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The Mike inside linebacker or Mike, their role is to they form up on the strong side of the offensive formation for the most part, and their job is to read, and they'll cover. They're the first go-to to cover the A gap if the nose tackle's playing straight up on the center and it's taking away one gap. Okay, it's hard to do this and not be a little technical. If our nose tackle is trying to play a 2 gap, which does too, by the way, then your Mike is free to move into the backfield, which is what I expect to see against Stanford a lot, by the way.
And the Will linebacker again would be?
Linebacker is going to be on the weak side. It could be on the wide side of the field. Typically, that means they're a little speedier, better in pass cover. and also good at, if you're going to do a complex blitzing package, a will linebacker who has some speed and ability to cover the ground fast and get in quarterbacks' faces as a big plus, right? So that you don't always have to use your nickel back, which is a secondary player, but you can use a linebacker combined with, some movement with the defensive line. So hopefully that wasn't too weird an answer.
No, excellent answer. And again, for those of you that aren't sure, a gap is the space between one lineman and the next. So some offensive lines have big gaps, others don't have big gaps. Thank you again. And a reminder, if you have a question or comments for our panel about previous game or preview of another game or whatever's on your mind, go to either of the WeRSC message boards and click on the thread that pertains to Inside the Trojans Huddle viewer or listener questions. So with that, that's a wrap for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle. Reminder, the next Tuesday, we'll review the Stanford game as well as preview the Fresno State game, and as well as comments on relevant USC and college football topics, as well as our weekly predictions of games. So until then, a big thank you to this week's outstanding panel of Marc Kulkin, Chris Arledge, and Kevin Bruce, and a big thank you to all of you for watching or listening to Inside the Trojans Huddle. Till next Tuesday, this is your host, Greg Katz, reminding all of you to fight on, everybody.